Hey everyone. I wanted to run down a few features that could really benefit the OM-1. With the premiere of the Fuji X-H2S, it's hard not to consider it when it's nearly a perfect hybrid camera. The Fuji X-H2S can do exactly what the GH6 can do in terms of shooting in an array of video codec, and it can come very close to what the OM-1 can do in terms of raw shooting speed. While the Fuji may not have as confident of an AF system as it is as the OM-1, it's very close. My wish list isn't long. It's just a couple features, but these are features that can really add a lot of value. I know a lot of photographers will cringe at the idea and probably blame video features for the rising cost of cameras. But truth be told, cost is up for a significant amount of varying reasons. And really, it's the photo features that are more processor intensive. Video codecs like AVC, LongOp, and HEVC are actually really easy for the camera to process. This is especially true when you compare those video codecs to features in the OM-1 like Live ND, Live Composite, High Res. These are all very hard to process. Just think about how long it takes for the buffer to finish writing to the card or the processor to write that information compared to shooting video. Video stops and starts writing once the button is hit. The opposite is true with photos. These photo features always take much more time to finish processing. So no, these codecs at this point in 2022 is very generic. If most cameras at this price point have it, then it becomes really hard to defend against a manufacturer's reason to not have it at all. It should also shoot open gate, the same way the GH series cameras and now the Fuji X-H2S can. This is a flagship hybrid camera, regardless of how it's looked at by the majority of the Olympus community. And if the other two crop sensor flagship cameras have this feature, it's not excusable to not have it at all. The next feature is Live ND video. This would really make it stand out. There are no mirrorless cameras that have Live ND features at all. Imagine never having to worry about carrying an ND filter. It would be amazing if it can work in tandem with the ISO and aperture as well. In this price point, the only camera that offers ND in video is the Blackmagic Pocket 6K Pro. Otherwise, no other hybrid camera has this. The last video features are subject tracking, which should be available in video, and USB-C out. I placed these two last on the video list because these are things that I think are much easier for OM to implement. It sucks that video shooters lose subject tracking. While the autofocus system in the OM-1 is better for photography, in video, if you're using older Olympus lenses, it actually doesn't perform as well as the older EM1s. Regarding USB-C, I say this is easy to implement because it already does output data through the USB-C. You can use this camera as a webcam. The information already travels through that port. It would be fantastic to be able to transfer data to an SSD for those extremely long shoots. For photography, the camera is nearly perfect, but a couple features would be great to be added. The first is motion blend, similar to the Nikon Z9. For sports, especially skaters and surfers, I love those long panoramic shots where you can see that every action performed by the athlete. What I would have to do is take all those raw files and stitch them in a sequence, which isn't really hard per se, but it's still time consuming. And this is where the Nikon Z9's motion blend is amazing. It does that entire stitching process for you, and it actually looks like it does a very good job. I'll link a video by Matt Granger for you to check out. The next feature that they should implement is, and I have to reiterate, this is something that I think it should be done for photo and video, but they should add human detect in the subject tracking. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think this could actually help a lot. The eye and face tracking does a fair job, but there are cases when the camera misses the eye if the head is at a certain degree, or if the body is turned around completely, or if the person's turned around completely. If human detection was added, it could act like anal detect, where It can find the eye as well as the body and track that way. The last thing that I think would be extremely smart to add is compressed RAW. The Nikon Z9 can shoot 120 frames per second, but can only do so in compressed 8 megapixel files. The Sony A1 can shoot 30 frames per second with continuous autofocus, but compresses 14-bit files into 13-bit, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's not very fast in comparison. The Canon R3 can shoot 109 at the speed of 195 frames per second, but it's limited to 50 frames max. The OM-1 can already perform at that flagship level while retaining the full megapixel file, 12-bit file, but it can be pushed further, and further is where a crop sensor has to go. If the OM-1 compresses that file down, it will eliminate that buffer problem. There's also a possibility that the camera could perform more than 120 frames per second. This could also allow the camera to raise that continuous autofocus frames past that 50 frames per second wall. There's actually a lot of benefits to compressed RAW files. I'm sure there are other features that are missing that a lot of hybrid shooters would love to have. So if you have something in mind, I'd really love to hear it. I really appreciate you guys listening to me talk about cameras and just interacting with me. That's one thing I really didn't expect to love the most. And again, I can't thank you guys enough for all of your time. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.